If you like my content and want to support it further, check me out on Patreon for shoutouts, exclusive updates, polls, and even early video releases. Season 2 of Demon Slayer, covering the Red Light District arc, started very recently, featuring one of the Hashira Tengen Uzui. This is also just after the Mugen Train arc, with the fan-favorite fight between Rengoku and Akaza. So now that the anime has reached a point where the Hashira are taking an active role in the story, I thought a fun little video we could do would be ranking the Hashira from weakest to strongest, taking a look at the whole series and seeing how they stack up against each other at their relative strongest. So let's just get into it. Now at the bottom of the list, at number 9, we have Tengen Uzui, the Sound Hashira. Now, it's really no surprise that Tengen is first up. After all, whereas other Hashira have participated in fights against greater enemies, Tengen was struggling in a battle with the Upper Moon 6 demon, Gyutaro, clearly the weakest in the upper levels. And Tengen performs worse against this one than other Hashira do against stronger demons. While he is deserving of the title of Hashira for his skill and power, he unfortunately gets left behind by the story's later power creep. At number 8 is Shinobu Kocho, the Insect Hashira. Shinobu's greatest asset is easily her speed, even keeping up with Doma, who's faster than base Akaza. After all, he legitimately tried to block her thrust, and he just couldn't. The volume extras even hype her up, which says something since she's presumably being compared to other Hashira in this statement. Although it's debatable if this comparison is taking the mark into account, which it very well might not, since at this point Giyu was not shown with it yet. Plus, her lack of strength when swinging a sword locks her into a thrust-based fighting style, which greatly limits her combat options. And while her poisons are strong, the only poison she has to kill upper-level demons requires her to sacrifice herself. It would feel pretty disingenuous to place her higher for that, so she ends up being placed this low on the list. At the number 7 spot, we have Muichiro Tokito, the Mist Hashira. It may seem odd to place him here, considering he's often hyped up as a prodigy among the Demon Slayers. And if he had a chance to get older, then he might have become much stronger. Sadly, his performance in the final arc, while decent, is a level below the rest. When he had his mark active, he defeated the upper rank 5 Gyoko with ease, but we later saw him fight the Upper Moon 1 and he got defeated with the same ease. Even with his mark active and using breathing techniques, he didn't stand a chance against him despite Kokushibo not really trying, only using a breathing technique to be polite. The only reason I have him above Shinobu is because he does get it together and help fight against a full power Kokushibo, but he was only able to do that because Sanemi and Gyome were carrying the fight. Next at number 6 we have Mitsuri Kanroji, the Love Hashira. Now I'll be honest, she is not that weak despite this placement. The problem is that we have entered a level where they were all able to participate in the fight against Muzan, or are relative to those who did, and they can only be ranked according to the nuances in their performance. Despite her being in that fight from the beginning, she is the one getting saved the most, the story even making a point of it, so I have to give her the number 6 spot. At number 5, I have Sanemi Shinazugawa, the Wind Hashira. I honestly expected to have Sanemi much higher, and his placement is again not because of any failings on his part, just that other characters seemingly perform better. After all, he is very impressive, holding off on his own against base Kokushibo fairly well, and performing relative to the others in the fight against Muzan. Really, you could reason him to be higher, but I'll go into my next placements and explain why they are a bit more impressive. This leads me to the number 4 pick in Obanai Igura, the Serpent Hashira. In terms of raw stats, he isn't seemingly that impressive, but after rereading the Muzan fight, I think he has by far some of the best showings in the entire arc, mostly in terms of skill. It's little moments that justify this placement, like when he kicks away a limb he cuts off from Muzan to counter his insane regen, or when he's able to keep up in the fight despite being blinded, and his reaction time being hindered by the fact he's acting on instructions from his snake. There's also moments where he is landing multiple hits on Muzan in a single attack within the fight. He just puts up a really impressive display. Now this next part is a little weird, as in the numbers 3 and 2 spots, I have Kyojuro Rengoku and Giyu Tomioka. So here's the thing, they both fought against the same opponent in Akaza, and while the presence of Tanjiro in the latter fight throws in some variables, their performance in that fight is pretty relative, as I will explain. However, before I get into how Giyu and Rengoku compare and why they're so close in strength, I have to justify the placement first. Remember how I said everyone performs pretty relative to each other in the fight with Muzan? That includes Giyu. In fact, he was one of the first people to start fighting him once they got above ground. The difference is that Giyu was doing all this with a broken sword. That's just fucking insane. But anyway, back to Rengoku and Giyu. Even though Tanjiro was in the fight with Giyu, it was more like they were taking turns than fighting together most often. And when Giyu is fighting alone, his performance is very similar to Rengoku's. They both counter normal attacks from Akaza's Compass Needle with normal sword swings. And they both use breath techniques to successfully counter Blood Art attacks. The problem with ranking them against each other is Akaza doesn't use the same techniques, so I can't see how they perform against each other exactly. Like, we never see how Giyu would fare against Akaza's Annihilation type, and we never see how Rengoku would do when faced with his strongest attack, his blue-silver chaotic afterglow. So you see my predicament here. The only reason I'm putting Giyu slightly above Akaza is just because Giyu has water-breathing Form 11, Dead Calm, and it's probably one of the strongest sword techniques in the entire series. It just kind of gives him that bit of an edge. And last on the list, to the surprise of probably no one, at number 1 is Gyome Himejime, the Stone Hashira. What isn't there to say about him? He has easily the greatest physical strength among the Hashira, and despite that is still competing with them in overall agility, able to dodge base Kokushibo at point blank range. His weapon is also fantastic, able to attack from 2 directions at once, wrap people in its chain, and take chunks out of enemies. There isn't a single factor where he's lacking. Do I even need to make an argument for this? The characters themselves see him as the strongest. So yeah, that's my ranking. I know for sure some of these placements will be controversial, but some of them are so close in strength that if you disagree, I'll probably be able to see why. So be sure to tell me what you think in the comments below. How would you rank them? Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm completely stupid? So many possibilities. But overall, I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good one and take care. For the Patreon shoutout, we have our first and current only patron, Verdi Birdie. Thank you for the support.
And the door